Funny thing about control, isn't it? Everyone's clenching their fists, tightening their grip, trying to hold everything together. Relationships, jobs, dreams, reputations, like if they just squeeze a little harder, maybe nothing will fall apart. But what if falling apart is exactly what's supposed to happen? What if the chaos you're trying to avoid is the very storm meant to set you free? Letting go. Such a lovely little phrase, isn't it? So poetic, so soft, but oh, if only people knew what it really means. It's not some feel-good poster on a therapist's wall. No. It's war. A war against everything you've been taught to believe. A rebellion against the illusion that you're in control. People don't want to let go. They want to pretend they've let go while still keeping one eye open, one foot on the brake, and both hands nervously hovering just in case. Because deep down they are terrified that if they loosen their grip, life will collapse like a house of cards. But maybe, just maybe, it's supposed to. You ever seen someone clutch a rope so tight that it burns right through their skin? That's what most people are doing every day. Holding on to things, people, identities, ideas that are dragging them through fire. But oh, they'd rather bleed than let go. Because letting go means surrendering to the unknown. And the unknown, that's chaos, that's freedom. That's wild, uncharted territory, and most people aren't brave enough to explore it. But some aren't like the rest. You see, there's a certain madness in letting go, a beautiful kind of madness. It's not rational, it's not logical, it's not neat or tidy. It's a scream in the dark. It's laughter at the edge of a cliff. It's the moment you finally say, I'm done pretending I've got it all under control. And suddenly, the weight lifts, not because the world changed, but because you stopped fighting it. Everyone's chasing peace, chasing purpose, chasing that golden finish line where everything finally makes sense. But what if it's not at the end of the race? What if it's right here, right now, hidden in the act of release? What if peace doesn't come from figuring everything out, but from not needing to? What if purpose isn't found in gripping harder, but in loosening your hold and watching what flows into your hands instead? People build castles out of expectations, towers out of plans, thrones out of control. And then life comes along like a wrecking ball in a clown suit and knocks it all down. And they cry, oh how they cry, mourning the ruins of what they thought they needed. But maybe it wasn't destruction, maybe it was mercy. Maybe letting go is the only way to be free from the prison you didn't even know you were in. Funny, isn't it? How we think we own things. We own jobs, people, dreams, even time. As if life owes us anything, as if we can bind the wind with contracts and rules and rituals. But nothing is truly yours, not really, not forever. And the moment you accept that, truly accept it, you start to breathe a little deeper. You stop clenching, you stop chasing, you start watching, feeling, you realize life was never meant to be controlled. It was meant to be experienced. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying what was never yours to begin with. The burden of perfection, the weight of other people's expectations, the chains of your own past mistakes. People carry all this junk in their minds like a hoarder's attic, boxes full of regrets, fears, old stories, broken promises, and all it's doing is crowding the space where joy was supposed to live. But when you let go, really let go, something shifts. The noise quiets, the fog lifts, and you start to feel something you forgot existed. A strange, dangerous kind of peace. The kind that doesn't come from everything being okay, but from no longer needing it to be. The kind of peace that laughs in the face of chaos and whispers, "Let's see what happens next." Control. Now there's a word that makes people feel powerful, like kings sitting on cardboard thrones, thinking they can command the universe with their little to-do lists and calendar reminders. But control is just a clever costume fear wears, a nice suit over a shaking body, a mask to hide the panic. Because when people say they want control, what they really want is certainty, safety. But here's the joke, there is no such thing. There never was. People spend their whole lives tightening their grip on careers, relationships, appearances, reputations, desperate to hold everything in place, like juggling knives in a storm and hoping no one notices the cuts. They think if they control every little detail, nothing will go wrong. But things still fall apart, don't they? Plans fail, people change. The unexpected comes knocking at midnight, laughing in your face while your perfect little world burns in the background. And then, poof, all that control, gone. Just smoke in your hands. Funny thing is, the tighter you hold on, the more you lose. It's like squeezing water in your fist. The more pressure you apply, the faster it slips through your fingers. But no one tells you that. No one teaches you that control is a prison built brick by brick with your own fear. A silent panic room where you lock yourself away while pretending you're safe. You call it stability, you call it structure, but it's just a cage, and you're the one who welded the bars. There's a certain madness in letting go, yes, but there's an even deeper madness in clinging to a world that refuses to be tamed. The world doesn't care about your checklists. Life doesn't ask for your permission. It twists and turns, bends and breaks, dances in chaos and laughs at your rules. You try to script your scenes, choreograph your story, direct every line, but life ad-libs every time. And still you try. You build walls, stack routines, micromanage your emotions like some kind of puppet master, terrified of the strings snapping. But maybe they're supposed to snap. Because what is control, really? It's an illusion, a hallucination dressed as order. You think you're driving the car, but you don't even know where the road leads. You think you're holding the map, but it's upside down. You think you're in charge, but life has its own script, written in ink you can't see. And when the plot twists, when the lights go out, when the stage crumbles beneath your feet, you'll finally see the truth. You were never in control. You were just afraid. And oh, how fear loves control. It feeds off it, grows stronger in it. The more afraid you are, the more you crave control. Because it gives you a sense of power, even if it's fake, even if it's fleeting, even if it's killing you softly every day. But here's the twist. When you stop chasing control, when you finally drop the act, something unexpected happens. You don't fall apart. You fall free. You start to breathe in the chaos instead of resisting it. You begin to flow instead of forcing. You realize life isn't about controlling the storm. It's about learning to dance in the rain. And that dance, oh, that dance. It's messy, it's wild, it's unpredictable, but it's real. And real is what you've been missing all along. People will tell you control equals success. That discipline, order, precision, that's the way to win. But win what exactly? A race to nowhere? A throne made of fear? A life spent clenching your fists so tightly you forgot what it's like to feel? Control keeps you from risk, sure, but it also keeps you from magic, from serendipity, from the beautiful, spontaneous chaos that makes life worth living in the first place. So go ahead, keep pretending you've got it all together, keep tightening the screws, keep polishing your little control panel like it actually runs the show, but sooner or later, the lights will flicker, the buttons will stop working, the system will crash, and you'll be left staring into the void with nothing but your illusion in your hands. By expectations. Now there's a cruel little trick life plays on you. A velvet rope wrapped around your neck, tugging gently at first, then tightening every time you take a breath. You see, people are born with dreams, but raised with expectations. Not their own? No. Societies, families, friends, even strangers. Be this, do that, act like this, don't say that, and just like that, you're not living anymore. You're performing. Everyone wants to be seen, but only in the way they think they're supposed to be seen. You start wearing masks, collecting them like trophies. One for work, one for home, one for relationships, one for that suffocating dinner table where silence has more tension than a loaded gun. You walk through life as a character in someone else's story, rehearsing lines you never wrote, under a spotlight you didn't ask for. But hey, if you smile enough, maybe they'll applaud. Maybe they'll accept you. Maybe they'll finally say, "Good job. You did what we expect." But expectations don't feed the soul. They starve it. They make you shrink, make you bend, make you mold yourself into shapes that don't even fit your bones anymore. You start to forget who you were before the world started shaping you like clay with cracked hands. You're not living, you're surviving. You're not choosing, you're conforming. You're not dreaming, you're obeying. And the sickest part? You begin to expect it from yourself. You become your own warden. You set your own rules, your own limits, your own chains. You build your own cell and then wonder why everything feels so small. You say, "This is who I have to be," while a quiet scream echoes deep inside your chest, begging you to remember who you really are. But you silence it with responsibility, with routine, with that fake smile you've been wearing for so long, you forgot how your real one looks. They tell you to be successful. What they mean is be acceptable, fit in. Don't ruffle feathers, don't speak too loud, don't feel too much, don't dream too big, and definitely don't fail. Because failure, that's the biggest crime, isn't it? Not because it hurts you, no, because it disappoints them, because it breaks the illusion, because it shows you're human, not a puppet in their perfect little show. But here's the real joke. Those expectations, they were never real to begin with. They were borrowed dreams, passed down like haunted heirlooms. Generational pressure, dressed as tradition, cultural guilt disguised as morality. You inherited cages and called them values. You internalized judgment and labeled it guidance. You built your identity out of fear of rejection instead of the fire. You ever wonder why nothing ever feels enough? Why even after meeting all their checklists you still feel empty? That's because your soul doesn't want a checklist. It wants chaos, passion, meaning. It wants something that isn't approved by others, but ignites something dangerous and wild inside you. But you bury that part of you under layers of expectations like dirt over a coffin. Every time you say yes to someone's version of your life, you say no to your own. Every time you sacrifice your truth to maintain their comfort, a part of you dies quietly in a corner no one ever visits. You become a ghost of your own potential, haunting a life that never really belonged to you. And you call that being responsible. You call that maturity. But all you've done is surrender, because deep down you know you weren't born to be a replica. You weren't made to blend in. You weren't wired for polite compliance. You were born with fire, but they handed you water. You had wings, but they gave you bricks. And yet you carry it all like a good little actor, hoping one day the script will get better. But scripts don't change unless you rip them apart and start writing your own. But most people won't. Because letting go of expectations means letting go of comfort. It means being misunderstood, laughed at, judged. It means disappointing people who were never meant to define your worth in the first place. It means burning the masks, even if it leaves you exposed. It means choosing freedom over applause, truth over peace, soul over silence. A loneliness, that delicious silence wrapped in whispers. People run from it like it's a plague, like it's something to be cured, treated, medicated, buried under noise and distractions. But you sit in it. You breathe in the echo of your own thoughts. You hear your heart beat louder when the world stops talking. And suddenly you realize, maybe the silence isn't empty. Maybe it's full. Full of things the crowd would never let you hear. Full of truth, pain, peace, chaos. All tangled up in one magnificent mess. But people don't like mess. They like order, predictability, repetition. So they keep dancing to the same tune, mouthing the same meaningless conversations, just to avoid what happens when they're finally alone. Because loneliness, my friend, is a mirror. Not the kind you look into when you're all dolled up for the public eye. No, this mirror doesn't flatter, it doesn't lie. It shows you what's underneath the performance. It shows you your cracks, your fears, your contradictions. It shows you everything you've been avoiding in the company of others. And that's terrifying, isn't it? To look into that mirror and not see the version of yourself you've worked so hard to create. But you kept looking anyway. Funny, isn't it, the way society teaches us that being alone is a weakness, that if no one texts you, calls you, invites you, then something must be wrong with you, that if you don't have a partner, a group, a tribe, you must be broken. But the truth is, most people aren't alone because they're weak. They're alone because they're tired of noise, tired of pretending, tired of meaningless small talk, plastic smiles, hollow relationships that suck the soul right out of them. They've tasted solitude and realized it's not poison, it's medicine. Ah, but solitude comes with a price. You see, once you start enjoying your own company, you stop settling for others who only bring noise. You start noticing how heavy some conversations are, how draining some people can be. You become allergic to pretense. You lose tolerance for shallow games, empty validation, the fake affection dressed in polite laughter. And that's when it begins, the slow shedding of friends, of lovers, of habits, of masks. Not because you hate anyone, but because you finally heard your own voice and it's louder than theirs. And oh, they don't like that. No. When you stop needing people to feel whole, they panic. When you stop seeking permission to exist, they get offended. When you walk alone without looking back, they call you names. Arrogant, cold, damaged. But deep down, they know the truth. You've become something they're scared to be. Free, untamed, unapologetic. You've chosen solitude over codependency. Truth over company. Self-respect over attention. And that's dangerous in a world that feeds off your insecurities. But loneliness, true loneliness, it's not about having no one around. It's about no longer being able to tolerate what used to keep you company. You see, the conversations you once craved now feel like background noise in a movie you've already seen 100 times. The people you once thought you couldn't live without now feel like distractions from the parts of yourself you're finally beginning to explore. You start asking deeper questions. You start craving silence, not to escape, but to listen, not to run, but to arrive. You begin to understand that maybe your soul wasn't meant to be constantly entertained. It was meant to be awakened. And isn't that the irony? The moment you stop chasing people, the moment you become whole on your own, they start noticing you. But by then, you've already walked so far into your own world, their approval doesn't echo the way it used to. You've tasted something richer, something real. You've found a connection that doesn't need words, doesn't need affirmation, a connection with yourself. With the stillness, with something far beyond the noise. And that's when you know you didn't lose people, you lost illusions. You didn't choose isolation, you chose depth. You didn't go crazy, you just woke up in a world that's addicted to being asleep. You didn't become empty, you became full of something most people never even touch, self-awareness. That sharp, brutal, liberating awareness that cuts through every false version of you like a blade. And the more it cuts, the lighter you feel. The freer you breathe. The louder your silence becomes. Ah, the man who walks alone. No one to call, no one to text, no one waiting at home with a warm smile and a cup of tea. No distractions, just him and his thoughts. That's the part most people can't handle. The thoughts, the whispers in the silence, the echoes in the empty rooms. But he's made peace with them. He's befriended the voices most try to drown in music, crowds, in synthetic affection. He's not hiding from his demons. He's dancing with them in the quiet. See, when you strip away the noise, the validation, the constant performance, you start to see things clearly. You notice how desperate people are to be liked, how every smile is a transaction, how every "how are you" is just a formality. You see the games for what they are. The dating apps, the status updates, the filtered pictures with hollow captions. You see how love has been twisted into a product, packaged, sold, marketed, and when you don't play along, they think you're broken. But maybe, just maybe, you're the only one who sees the joke. He's not lonely, he's aware. He's not bitter. He's awake. He's not incomplete. He's just not interested in playing house with someone who doesn't even know who they are. He's not impressed by looks, money, flattery. He's not chasing a fairy tale written by people who never even found their own happy ending. He's not interested in rehearsed love stories with scripted lines and fake intimacy. He wants something raw, something messy, something real. But that kind of connection? It's rare. It's terrifying. It's not found in likes and emojis and dinner dates. It's found in silence, in pain, in shared madness. But people don't like madness. They like comfort, predictability, someone to text good morning and good night so they feel wanted, someone to cuddle with so they don't have to face the void, someone to distract them from themselves. And when you don't play along, when you choose solitude over superficiality, they say you're lost, but maybe, just maybe, you've found something they never will: peace. And the beauty of that peace is that it comes at a cost. Oh yes, you lose friends. You lose the illusion of romance. You lose the warmth of temporary affection. But what you gain is clarity, strength, vision. You start building your life brick by brick, not based on someone else's timeline, but on your own rhythm. You stop chasing and start creating. You stop pleasing and start creating. You stop pleasing and start becoming. You become the kind of man who doesn't need to be seen to feel worthy. The kind of man who walks into a room and doesn't beg for attention because he already knows who he is. And that's what scares them. The ones who never sat with their own silence, the ones who panic when they're alone for more than 5 minutes. They look at him and see a threat, not because he's dangerous, but because he's free. He's proof that you can survive without the constant validation, that you can be whole without a +1, that you can enjoy your own company without needing someone to fill the silence. He's not antisocial, he's just selective. He's not cold, he's just tired of pretending. He's not afraid of love, he's afraid of lies wearing love's mask. He knows that the real thing, the raw, unfiltered, soul-burning connection, can't be rushed, faked, or forced. So he waits, not out of desperation, but out of respect for himself, for the journey, for the kind of love that doesn't come wrapped in cliches, but in scars, chaos, and truth. Because when you've tasted solitude, when you've walked through your own darkness, you don't settle for lukewarm anymore. You want fire, you want depth, you want madness that matches your own. And until then, you walk alone. Not because you have to, but because you can. Because you've looked at the world, smiled at its games, and chosen a different path. A quieter one, a bolder one, a lonelier one, but also a path that leads deeper, not outward, inward, where most are afraid to go. The man who lives alone, who walks through the noise of this world without a partner on his arm, without a hand to hold, without a soft voice whispering sweet nothings in his ear, and still manages to breathe, to function, to exist without falling apart. That's the part they can't understand, isn't it? That he's still standing, still smiling, maybe a little crooked, maybe a little scarred, but smiling nonetheless. Because in a world where dependency is mistaken for love, his self-reliance looks like rebellion. His solitude looks like defiance. His peace, that makes people nervous. They don't tell you this part, do they? That being alone makes you dangerous, not in the way they romanticize in movies with leather jackets and fast cars, but in the way that shakes the ground beneath people who've built their lives on emotional crutches. See, when you live alone long enough, you stop apologizing for being yourself. You stop adjusting your volume, your thoughts, your pace, just to accommodate someone else's comfort. You get used to eating with your own demons at the dinner table. You stop hiding your flaws under makeup, filters, or polite conversations. You stop begging to be understood. And that's when the game changes. Because you learn to trust your gut. You start recognizing manipulation not by its words, but by its tone. You see how quickly a compliment can turn into a leash. You notice how "I love you" often comes with chains. And because you've built your world on your own terms, anyone trying to step into it better bring more than charm. They better bring truth, depth, pain. Not the sugar-coated kind, but the kind that bleeds. The kind that's been through fire and still dares to love anyway. You're not chasing butterflies and candlelit dinners anymore. You're chasing storms that know how to dance. You become immune to the shallow games, the endless texting, the social media flexing, the emotionally unavailable sweethearts hiding behind soft smiles. You've seen too much, felt too much. So you stop settling for surface-level connection and start craving souls with stories, souls with shadows, souls who've lived through hell and still choose light even when it flickers. You want someone whose madness matches your melody, not someone to fix you, not someone to save you, just someone brave enough to sit beside you when the music stops. And isn't that the irony? That in your solitude you've become more whole than most couples ever will. While they post pictures in matching outfits, you've stitched your own wounds with your bare hands. While they argue over texts and misunderstandings, you've learned to communicate with your own silence. While they seek validation in every hug, every kiss, every "I miss you," you've found validation in simply being, breathing, existing, on your own terms. So now they look at you, curious, confused, maybe even threatened. They wonder why you don't chase, why you don't fall headfirst into anything that smells remotely like affection. They whisper, "He must be broken." But oh, if only they knew. You're not broken, you're just not blind anymore. You've seen love dressed as a lie, you've seen warmth that burns, and now you wait, patiently, cautiously, for something real, something worth burning for again. But until then, you walk your path, you sip your coffee alone, not because no one wants to join you, but because you've learned to savor solitude like fine wine. You sleep alone, not out of desperation, but because your peace is more sacred than another warm body. You laugh at your own jokes, cry in your own arms, hold your own hand in the chaos. And there's a twisted beauty in that. A kind of strength most people will never know because they're too busy filling the silence with distractions, too afraid to meet the version of themselves that only solitude can introduce. And maybe one day someone will walk into your life not as a missing piece, but as a mirror, a storm disguised as a heartbeat, a chaos that feels like home. But until then, you're not waiting, you're living fully, boldly, quietly, because the man who lives alone without a girlfriend is not incomplete. He's simply unrushed, untamed, unapologetically real in a world that fears exactly that.